You're listening to PartyNerdz Weekly.
What is up, everyone? PartyNerdz back in the house.
What's up?
Okay. Now, this is going to be a very different and very interesting week because this week is different because there's a show right now on Netflix that is actually kind of like not just breaking record, it's literally breaking records, but it's kind of breaking a curse. And so before we get into it, let me introduce the cast. We got actually in the control board live from Colombia. Give it up for Jorge.
What's up, guys? Dude, you never believe I'm in the area of Colombia. It's so remote, right? I had to, there's no like roads. Everything's like by mules and shit. And I'm actually at an internet cafe. I've been waiting for here for an hour, paying by the minute.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So when you were on the mule, did you carry like bags of coffee, like to hand to the villagers?
You can say that.
Well, what part of Colombia are you at?
Medellin.
Oh, okay. That's where you're from, right?
Yep.
Uh-oh, back home to the roots.
Back home, yep.
That's right. Just this is the fam. Showing off the little one.
Roots.
Yeah.
Where everyone's playing soccer in the streets. Also, right. We have next to Jorge, we have the man with working internet. Give it up for Jerv. What's up, Jerv?
I'm back in the 21st century, y'all. Here I am.
No, man. Look, I mean, it's a slick background. You look like God in the movie Bruce Almighty, you know, with the white and all the background. I shouldn't tell you you look like God because you think you'll start acting like it. And below Jorge, we have our dad, our newest dad of the crew of 7 months. Give it up for Bravo. What's up, Bravo?
What's up, guys?
All right, so you know what? Let's get right into it. All right, so before we get into One Piece, let me ask y'all a question. Can you guys remember any good anime to live action adaptations?
No.
Crickets. All right, because here's the thing. Like, I look at exactly. First of all, let's think of all the ones. I mean, so yeah, one of the worst ones was Dragon Ball Evolution. Did you guys see that?
Oh, so awful. I saw it 2 years after it was in theaters.
Did you guys try to like it or no? Because that's the only live adaptation, DBZ.
I wanted to like it, but it was trash.
So it's not the only live action one. The only reason I know that is because way back when blockbusters were still a thing, I remember actually seeing a Dragon Ball VHS, and it was obviously Japanese, but wasn't the only live action one. That one also was just as bad, though.
You had that. Remember The Last Airbender? Jerv, you saw The Last Airbender, right?
There is no movie in Boston, say.
Okay, then on Netflix you had Death Note, trash. Cowboy Bebop, trash. Ghost in the Shell, which was in theaters, was like decent. Wouldn't y'all say it was decent?
Nah.
No.
Okay. No. Oh, wait. I do gotta say, there was one anime to live action that I love that didn't get the hype it deserved, which was Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer.
Trash.
What?
I can't comment.
Speed Racer was great.
Trash.
First of all, I'm a fan. I have the box set. I have the collection. Speed Racer, they did a good job. All right, let's not get off the topic. All right, so do you guys think the adaptation of the manga, because Bravo, you actually read the manga One Piece, right?
Yes.
Do you think the adaptation from manga, and Jerv, you're just starting the anime to live action, do you think it works?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. So what I think that they did great is they suck, I would say 80% to the source material and changed little things. Because again, as we've seen with the Disney live actions, you don't want to stick 100% to the material because then it's, well, why is this being made? Because animation would be a much better medium for it anyway. So they did little slight changes, which I think some were for the better and some were not, but none were horrible sins or anything like that. But I would say it's an 80% representation of the manga.
So you think for the most part, for what it was, because here's another thing of One Piece a lot of people know is you're talking a long manga. How long has it been going on for since, like, Bravo?
How long has it been going on since? I think in the States it came out when I was in high school, because that's when
that was like 50
on
years
Shonen
ago,
Jump.
right?
Because I think it debuted a little bit before Naruto, if I remember correctly. Because I remember everybody being like, "Oh, there's ninjas and pirates in it."
1999.
Oh wow! In America or in Japan?
I think it just, I think he's right. I think 99 just in general is like when the manga started, So this is a long running anime. So one thing they had to do with the show is condense pretty much like all these volumes, which took like over years, into 8 episodes. Like
over 100. They did over 100 chapters with the first season.
So, and like Jerv, so because you're new to it, like Jerv, you watched the show and then what did you see, Jerv? You told me you started watching the show, then you paused, watched the anime, then you went back to the show.
No, I was saying that's what James should do. I didn't watch One Piece, so I decided I wanted to watch it because I wanted to know who these characters were before I watched the live action to just get a better feel of this. And it doesn't do justice. It doesn't do it any justice at all. Look, is the show bad? Absolutely not. Is it great? Absolutely not. It's okay. And that's the reason, because they have to condense so much material. They're crossing characters who didn't meet at the certain time in the anime, but they're doing it for the show. And I get you have to make those changes, like Bravo said. Absolutely, you got to make these changes. But this world is so big, so deep, and so rich. You can never do it justice.
So
by
trying
to do 8 episodes. Yeah, but you can't do 8 episodes. You can't do it in 8 episodes. You just can't. And that's what makes it so bad to me. And we'll get into other stuff later, but like even the characters, I believe they did Luffy no justice with the actor playing him. He doesn't have the energy that Luffy has in the anime. He doesn't. The other characters, I thought Zoro is great. A lot of the other characters are spot on, pretty much great. Nami's great, but Luffy, who's the leader, who's the captain, just doesn't hit to me as much as he should.
Do you think that can translate well in a live action?
I think you could get better at it. First of all, this world is crazy, but he's Mexican, the actor, and he has a thick accent. And it comes out sometimes. Like at one point, it sounded like he was saying "One Piece." It's like
Luffy is based off of Brazilian. So
right.
Yeah, when Oda drew him, like you'll notice it with a lot of characters. One that was omitted, I kind of think for a good reason. Django, for example, people who watch the anime know he was based off of Michael Jackson. Dracula Mihawk's based off of Dracula. He bases a lot of things off, like his characters, off of real, pop culture and real things that he can draw inspiration off of. Not necessarily their character, but how they're developed. Right. And he did actually say that Luffy was Brazilian, like inspiration.
Right. And listen, that's cool and all, but like I said, Luffy's energy just wasn't matched in the live action.
Look, I'm going to say just the opposite, because I personally thought that Inaki Godoy, I think his name was, I thought that even though he didn't act just like the Luffy from the anime, he had that optimistic, carefree spirit of the character from the anime. And I think that's what, he's like a lovable guy. He's like somebody who, just like Luffy, he's always has a smile on his face. And even when stuff's bad going on, he's just kind of smiling. That, to me, he caught the essence of the character. But I don't think you could, just like Bravo said, you can't, accurately have Luffy just be like he is in the anime, because a lot of times he's just picking his nose saying, "When are we eating? Where's the food?"
I'll give you a perfect example on why I think that you can't match that energy in live action, because it won't translate well in that media. Would you rather Luffy be going, "Spike Seagull, wake up"? Like, that was a super high energy in Cowboy Bebop, where the character is high energy and bouncing all around. And everybody that has seen that scene, regardless of how they felt about Cowboy Bebop, all said that was horrendous. It was so annoying. It made them hate the character instantly because it just, that type of energy like just doesn't always translate well.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I do agree with your statement on that the live action, if you're comparing it to the anime has a lot more time, much like the manga does as well, to really dive into those characters and really make you feel, rather than it kind of feel a little rushed. And I do think that how most fans feel about One Piece, the live action, is that it's almost like we were starving for something good to be live action. And this being, I would say, pretty good, is being elevated to amazing.
Right. Pretty damn good, I think. You know, and matter of fact,
phenomenal.
I think that the chemistry, because Nikki actually said this, I was talking to Nikki, the chemistry with the character, like you can feel it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys like, you can sense that the actors really like each other. You can sense that there's more connection. Like, remember the one scene where Nami's doing the safe, she puts her head down, and then Luffy puts her head right on top of hers and stuff like that. Like, that was cute. Like, that's something like a brother and sister would do, you know? And I really think that they, like, the cast, you can tell they like each other. Like, there's a real connection, you know what I mean? I personally, all right, we're talking about the main characters. I think Buggy, what did y'all think about the Buggy actor?
I think he did a phenomenal job not leaning too far into being Heath Ledger's Joker or Jared Leto's Joker. Like, but playing Buggy with a minor twist, and I feel that he was a scene stealer. He absolutely stole a lot of scenes he was in.
Yeah, I think he nailed it. But there's another character that had a lot of energy. He nailed it. He nailed that character perfectly with the energy of the character. Like I said, I think Luffy's character could have had a little bit more energy. You know, it doesn't have to be exact as the anime, but it could have been more. That's what I'm looking for, a little bit more, because that character is out there.
I actually say the one that impresses me more, and like it's weird because it's hard to say like, oh, this is such an easy character to play. But the way that he played it did really good justice. Is the actor who played Zoro. Like, that's a very, very fine line between playing somebody who is like Zoro without it being Mr. Edgy, dark, cool. Like, they did a very good job with the writing and his acting without it being like, I feel like him and like if they did like Hiei or Sasuke, all those types of characters that follow that same archetype,
Right.
They're very, very hard roles to play in live action. And that was so well played.
It was almost like a deadpan comedy. Remember the part where Nami asks Zoro to talk to Luffy, and then he goes over there. He's like, "You want to talk about it?" And Luffy's like, "No." He's like, "Okay." You know, like,
Good talk.
he's like, "Good talk." Yeah, that's what he said. Like, that was great. Honestly, another actor I think did a great job was the Helmeppo actor. Remember Kobe, the guy with the blonde hair? If you guys watch an anime, that was probably the most perfect casting. That guy had his face, he had his mannerisms and everything down to a T.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. He definitely nailed it. You know, I mean, the news scene in it, though? Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Have my man down, butt ass naked up in his joint, too. Okay, cool. But yeah, he definitely nailed it.
Yeah, that scene wasn't in the manga, it wasn't in the anime, and it was so perfect for the character that when it happened, I went, "Oh my god, this like flows so well. I can't believe it wasn't even in the original."
It even explained his horrible haircut that he has in the anime too. I thought he was great. And like, I also think that like Arlong. Remember when they first were teasing it? Everyone was like shitting on Arlong's design, like, "Oh, he doesn't look like it." Honestly, the actor and all, when it was all said and done, I think he did a good job.
I actually prefer his voice over the anime's version, and I felt it was more sinister. It was just so well done, and like you could really feel the raw emotions that he felt, not just with "haha, I'm an evil pirate that has a lot of power, merman supremacy." Like, you really felt everything he was saying was so true to who that character was.
Right.
Yeah, he definitely nailed it. He again, another character that just they nailed it. I mean, his look, everything was great, and like you said, his attitude, like he was just, it was pumping out of him. Man. It was coming out of his pores.
Yeah, you know what? Before the show aired, everyone was like kind of saying, "Oh, he's gonna suck," blah 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 blah. But then afterwards, I haven't heard one complaint about Arlong. Now, I will say, look, there are some changes. First of all, like you were saying earlier, Bravo, there's some things that they had to change from the manga anime to live action. There were some changes that, to me, totally broke away from the character. One of which was Garp. Because Garp was like this, like staunch in the show, military guy, like, oh, Luffy, like, and when Luffy, like, you know, bounced the ball back to the ship, yeah, it's just like he was like, nah, and like he raged. That's not Garp at all. Garp would have been laughing, like, you know, he's like jolly, like Garp just has this jolly demeanor. They made him more of a hard ass, which I guess if he's gonna represent the how intimidating the Marines should be, I guess it makes sense. But I don't know. What do you guys think about Garp?
I'll let Jerv start.
He was great. Listen, I thought they nailed that character too. That he was just, you know, the changes that they had to do by introducing him as Luffy's grandfather early on, you know, all that stuff, you know, that stuff kind of fit for the show too. But I thought he was great, you know.
Oh, he looked just like him. Nikki loves him. Nikki is like, she's coming in the chat. Nikki is our 5th guest on here. She's just not actually on the live stream right now. And don't get it wrong, Nikki, like I love the actor. I just think the way that the directors told him to go was a little more staunch than what we were used to on, you know, in the anime, the manga.
So I will say I actually liked it better in the live action, how he was, mainly because it was somewhat like the reason why the scene that you're talking about, I feel perfectly encapsulates who they've changed the character into. Because yeah, he got angry and then he started to laugh. And I feel it's this man who holds up himself as he's duty bound, he's a Marine and blah, blah, blah. But he knows deep down what's really important in life. And I feel like that ending fight scene makes it that all the more apparent, where the whole time he spent all this time hunting his grandson, trying to bring him in, you're going to do the right thing. Then they fight and he demolishes Luffy. Like there's no like, oh, you proved me wrong because you beat me. It was, I crushed you.
Yeah.
Like, I won.
Even though he did the stretch that gamma. Yeah. And Garp was like, man, get out of here.
Yeah. Like, he
just cracked him.
Just like they like built up, they broke that trope of, hey, anytime an anime character is about to announce their finishing move, this is when it all turns around. It was nope. And I feel that not only was that such a great use on the trope, but also, like I was saying, it really showed who Garp was. He beat his grandson into submission. He could have arrested him and taken him right there. And instead he realized, you know what? This isn't how I'm going to change him, and this isn't what is going to be best for him. He now knows outside of the East Blue, it's more dangerous than here. Right. And I just showed him how dangerous it can be, and he laughed in that. Well,
beat him down.
Your dreams, kid.
And Bravo, just to back your point, another thing that does, it just shows you the power scaling of the Navy, the vice, that's the vice admiral. Like this is early Luffy. He hasn't hit any gears yet. He's nowhere near. Even if Luffy was gear 4 or 5, he would still have a challenge with them, you know. So of course it wouldn't make sense. Matter of fact, that would probably ruin the show if he would have like hit Garp. That would have been like, all right, come on, you know. But I agree with you.
Well, that's the thing that the manga did very, very good when they introduced Draco Mihawk, was showing, listen, you guys have no idea the level that you're going into. And I do feel like Draco Mihawk still embodied that, especially with his after conversation with the Vice Admiral of, you could make me do anything.
Right.
Like, I'm doing this just because. Like, I thought that was a good moment. But I will say, I really did not like that he went to go hunt Luffy, agreed to do it, and then just didn't do it. I feel like removing the Don Krieg thing, like, yeah, they had him do the small cameo, but I thought it was a lot better that in the manga and the anime that Mihawk like was just going to the same place that they
He
were.
just
like,
happened to be there, right?
right. And it didn't feel like it was like the writer forcing it to happen because he wasn't there for them.
Right.
He was just going because this other guy he was hunting. And it like I feel like the whole removal of Gain's like big scene and betrayal of Sanji and then like his reversal on that, I felt that was such a big emotional part of the manga and the anime that it did make me a little sad to see them remove that and like why Mihawk was actually there. It just felt
Right.
like that made it actually feel a little forced when they threw Gain in there.
Right. I agree. Jerv, I want you to answer Cindy's question. It says, can you watch it without having seen the actual anime?
Yeah, you definitely can. But I think watching the anime helps. Like I said, just understanding these characters a little bit more, their history and all their nuances. You get because it's so like it's just so deep and rich. This One Piece anime. So just watching this, I think you lose a lot, by not watching the anime. But you can definitely watch it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. A lot of these, like right now on Rotten Tomatoes, audience score 96. And mind you, more than half these people did not see actual or haven't watched the anime or read the manga. So that does say a lot. Like, whereas, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka next week. But my only gripe with Ahsoka is if you didn't watch Rebels or Clone Wars, you're lost because it literally is a continuation of those stories. I mean, it's good, but just like whereas One Piece, they pretty much give you everything you need to know at the beginning. So yeah,
And not only that, I feel that they've made changes that they really tried to build like good foreshadowing, not just for what was going to happen this season, but in much forward. Like, listen, the whole thing with Baroque Works, that fight with Mr. Seven, that's from a throwaway line in I think like chapter like 400, where like finally when they come across the Baroque Works captains, not Baroque Works captain, when they come across Baroque Works, one of them just mentions, "Oh, Roronoa Zoro, if I recall correctly, Mr. Seven went after you and then shortly disappeared when he went to go hunt you." He's like, "Yep, that's me." Them putting it in there and building it up, and they did it with
and cutting him in half brutally and his severed body, carrying it in a bag. Yeah, that was a surprise.
But they did a lot of build up, like very well with a lot of things. Like you would see Captain Koro's wanted poster in Axe Hand's safe. He mentions Koro. Then later, I made that captain think he killed me. So, because it was fortuitous for him and me as well, like blah, blah, blah. And it was so many things where they just kept building up, where it was the foreshadowing without it being like, okay, cool. So what's going to happen next? All right, well, we also have to retcon. Yeah, these characters met, like, even though it's never been mentioned. Like, well, yeah, well, why would it? Because they met before this manga started. Like, but they've done good with it so far.
I agree. Earlier, Nikki left a comment saying she didn't like the child actor Luffy. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you always want to show kids love, but I really feel that the young Luffy just didn't have the bright, optimistic, I'm going to be something someday. The kid seemed miserable. He seemed angry. He seemed like literally like a bad child that is going to grow up to be a sociopath. I'm sorry, he did.
I didn't like the kid. I didn't like the direction they put him in. It was also weird because, as Jerv mentioned before, they gave Luffy an accent, except the kid didn't have it. The kid had a different accent. It was a little jarring. The other thing that I will say, as long as we're talking about the kid actors, is this isn't so much a remark on the kid acting as much as like the makeup department and the director. Why would you choose a kid that has chubby cheeks to show that he's starved for 70 days?
Yeah, my man didn't starve at all on that rock.
He did nothing to like make some makeup or make it look like he was like thinner or like emaciated. No, it was like, like he was a well-fed kid. He wasn't fat.
Right.
But, like, he was a well-fed kid. He had chubby cheeks. And then he had chubby cheeks when he's day 70 of starving.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Sanji kid was one of the better actors out of all of them. And his kid story was, and I'd say Nami's. And actually, they all. I just couldn't stand Luffy's.
My remark has nothing to do with his acting. He did very good.
But why? I mean, why did they have baby Luffy stab himself in the face? Like, come on, man.
No, that's in the manga.
I get it, but I'm like, I'm gonna try to take out his eye. I'm like, yo, they really put this in here. It's crazy.
I think also, like, they did that, and they did the Zoro fight with Mr. Seven to show, like, hey, yes, like, animation, this comes from animation, but we want people to understand animation's not just for children. This isn't a story of, like, oh, okay, the guy has swords, right? Yeah, because blah, blah, blah. I feel like that was more or less them going, like, yeah, Funimation isn't blocking us, guys. There's blood and people get cut with swords.
But I'm just like, it's a kid doing it. How many kids are like, yo, let me stab myself in the face to prove something to my friends? Like,
Luffy did.
Yeah.
Right.
That was wild.
Yeah, no, it was weird because the show was a mixture of lighthearted, then really dark, then light, then mid. It was definitely all over. Matter of fact, this is another point I was thinking about, how out of all and there's so many animes out there, to make One Piece this big budget, to me, in our brains, the most absurd, because some of the characters in the anime and manga are absurdly huge, and some of the powers are just absurd. Like, it's easier to do, like, like we were saying, Ghost in the Shell or Cowboy Bebop, because you don't have to do the absurd. Like, first of all, they got through this first season, but when they have to do Chopper, when they have to do Brooke, when they have to do Frankie, they got to make it, like, it's weird because they didn't get too... Like, they didn't give Usopp the long nose. They didn't give Sanji the curve. There's a lot of stuff that they didn't do because they wanted to keep it in reality. But there's going to be some stuff like Big Mom. How are you going to do that?
I don't know. I don't think Big Mom's going to be that difficult. But then you have things where they didn't have Hachi because the Octopus Man. Like,
right.
That's something where definitely I could see, like, even though Hachi makes an appearance later on in the anime and show, like in manga, he plays small part. Spoiler, but that's one of the ones where, like, I think it was better for the omission because that would have came out cheesy. Chopper, I don't think would be that hard to do. I think they do something similar to, like, Sweet Tooth, or even so, like, the animation for that type of stuff has gotten better. Maybe it's straight up like Sonic or anything like that.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say about Hachi. I think out of all the fishmen, that was the one they should have added, because Hachi, if you remember, he's the one who was actually friendly with the Straw Hats at first. Remember with Zoro, but then Hachi realized they were the bad guys. So when they see him again later, it's a situation of, oh, damn, like, you guys are cool now. So I think that was a bad omission, because I think Hachi is, like, especially at the Saba Odi, he's going to play a huge part.
Mm-hmm. I feel that just like we've been saying, it's such a rich and deep world that, truth be told, like, it's one of those things I really, would I love to see all of these characters and everything like that? Yeah. Would it honestly be feasible, though? Like, I just don't think so, especially given how iffy streaming platforms have been, not just with live action animes, but with shows in general. So, to me, I really missed a lot of, like, character moments, especially, like, how long they were in the manga and in the anime, whereas here they were reduced to a great number. But there are some characters where it's, yeah, man, I missed the two swordsmen from the Arlong Park arc, but was their omission truly missed? Like, if I hadn't known about them? Right. Not really.
Right.
I mean, so, like we mentioned Hachi, they didn't have pepper, onion, and carrot, Usopp's little companions. They didn't have Buggy's that lion. Like, there was a lot of stuff from the obviously, and then just like when they did the Lord of the Rings movie, there was a lot of characters in the books they didn't put in the movies. The movie was still a hit, so you don't need to add every single character. I totally agree with that. I know, Jerv, you're just now getting into the One Piece lore, but did you notice Bravo in the beginning in the crowd at Roger's execution? They had Croco Mom. Did you notice Crocodile was a woman?
Yeah. I don't know if they're gonna stick with that. I know it's like a big fan theory with it. I don't know if that's gonna be the route they're gonna go.
I think the reason because they interviewed Inaki Godoy, who plays Luffy, and they asked him who's all going to be in the first season, and he said Crocodile and Nami, and all the actors looked at him like, "Shut up!" So
he did a Tom Holland.
I think he had a classic "Oops, did I do that?" moment on there.
Tom Holland moment.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about too is how successful this show is. So honestly, on Netflix part, this was a big gamble. Just that. How much money they put into this was a gamble, knowing the history of anime to live action. But right now, it is the number one. It had the biggest opening streaming weekend for any Netflix show, beating out Wednesday and Stranger Things season 4. Do you think this is going to lead to more seasons? Like, what do you think about how the success of the show is going to do in the future?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to do a season 2. Everything's going right so far for this, and the fans wanted to see this. So, and it's a good show. Like I said, it's not great, it's not bad, but it's a good show. You know what I mean? It's a good show. So I think you'll definitely get a season 2. Definitely want to see more of these characters come to life in season 2 and to see where they take it next, without a doubt.
Bravo story. So where we are in the story. Where do you think they're going to go? What are they going to do? What would season 2 include? Because technically season 1 was like the whole East Blue saga. It was like the East Blue saga.
Well, and that's the bigger question because, I've seen the idea pass around. Are they going to do a small time skip? Are they going to omit some arcs? Like, are they going to jump right into Baroque work since they started to build it up? Like, I think Alabasta is probably what they're going to do for season 2. But since there's so much in that arc, if they don't at least do one season, like I think Baroque Works is something you need to do at least 2 seasons of. But then again, like realistically, what's the end goal? Like, do I think that they're going to get season 2? Yeah, I think they're going to get season 2. But at what point is it going to get really murky? Because some of these arcs you cannot do in one season.
Right. Wait, we're talking Alabaster, and you didn't even mention Drum Island where they meet Chopper. Like, they got to go to the Snow Island, and that's probably going to be a solid 2 to 3 episodes. And I don't know if you guys heard, but Jamie Lee Curtis is a huge One Piece fan and wants to play. Who's the lady, Bravo? That who's the older lady that
the doctor.
Dr. Karina or something like that.
I cannot remember her name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
So
Jamie Lee Curtis, I can actually see her play that role, though.
And you know what? If they don't cast Jason Momoa as Kaido, if we get to Kaido, it has to be Jason Momoa. It has to be him.
I mean, is he going to look like how he does in 10 years?
Oh, yeah. But see, that's another thing. Like, so One Piece, like, they're all young. I feel like they need to film as much as possible right now before they start getting old. And that's the trick. Just like Stranger Things. You remember with Stranger Things, they kept on shooting a lot of seasons back to back because when the kids started growing up, you look different.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's always going to happen when you use young actors. But the way they just condensed this first season, it's crazy. Like I said, there's so much more they left out, but they got the point across. They're going to have to run this the same way. Just do as much as they can and condense.
Yeah, you know what? I think, Jared, me and you got the echo disease. Does your microphone have like a see if you're like, Jared, mute your mic for a second.
Is it my mic or your mic?
while you guys are doing that, I do think that they have a monumental task ahead of them to try to condense something. Because again, like we've been talking and like we've said, like it's a massive story, and some of these arcs can't be condensed into a season. With what they showed, that was 100 chapters, over 100 chapters, but it flowed pretty well. But with Alabasta, it could fit in one season. It could, but I don't think you could really do much more unless they're getting a much bigger budget and they're starting to film a lot more episodes immediately. Thank you.
Yeah. My man is tripping over in Colombia. What's going on here?
So let me ask you guys, what did you think about the special effects, like his stretching? First of all, I think they didn't overuse it. Like he wasn't like as stretchy as he is in the manga and in the anime. But do you guys think what did you guys think of the special effects?
They were shoddy at some points, man. There were some points that stuff was real shoddy. We ain't gonna lie. They could have done better, but with the budget they had, that's why you didn't see him stretch a lot.
I would say, listen, it didn't look like any CW stuff, especially like Flash or Supernatural or old school Buffy. But, there was some parts where I agree with Jerv. It looked a little shoddy here or there. For the most part, it did look really, really good. And I think that they tried to kind of alleviate the emphasis on him being super stretchy by showing how acrobatic he can be. So you saw him jumping around, doing flips a lot, bouncing around, being a little more hyperactive of a fighter, almost like a really kind of an untrained capoeira fighter a little bit. But it was interesting to see a lot of it. But I do feel that being said, the choreography was top notch.
Crazy.
Like, amazing with the choreography. Not one moment did I ever go feel like it was a super scripted moment or anything. I mean, the bar fight alone, which isn't in the original thing, it's a minor flashback, but all that it did, they really tried to emphasize and show how these fighters not only are unique, but make it believable, even with that little suspension of disbelief that they're doing all of these crazy, wild things.
No, what I think was an underrated scene: Zoro versus Kuro's two people downstairs. That was a great scene with the two. I can't remember the cat's name, but it's funny because I think the show was artistically creative, because not just like whenever you saw Sanji in his scenes, you heard jazz in the background, just like they do in the show, and everything had a yellow tint. And whenever you saw Zoro, everything had a green tint. Like little subtle things, you could tell they put a lot of care into the production and cinematography. But you're totally right. Like, I love how they actually made Nami a fighter too. Like in the anime, she gets the stick later because Usopp makes it for her. Now she's already badass with it, and that fight scene, like in the yard with Axiom Morgan, I thought that was great.
Were you upset that Sanji isn't pervy?
He isn't?
Not like the anime. Come on, man.
Bro,
they toned that down all the way.
The world we live in today, can you imagine people he's like Nami's won, and like going up and punching girls' ass? That would never fly today. That show would get canceled.
To be fair, I don't think that's just an evolution of where we are politically today. I feel that it's also, who were the target audiences for the anime, I mean the manga, and the target audience for this. Target audience for the manga and the anime were teenage boys. That's why it's called shonen. But this wasn't aimed towards teenage boys. This was aimed towards young adults. Like, it's for everybody to enjoy, but a lot more curses in it, a lot more violence, a lot more visceral. And while it's not Punisher level, like decapitation and going over crazy with gore, what they're showing is not something that would have flown in a 15-year-old's anime, especially with all of the censors. While we remember a lot of anime being, oh yeah, and then they did this and this and this, a lot of times they had to get really creative because of what they were blocked with the censors, and other times it was, oh, he sliced him, and now let's make it a shadow that the other guy is falling apart instead of showing blood.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then all in all, though, honestly, when I watched this show, I felt good. Like, I'm probably going to watch it again. I always say, how much you like a show would you see it again? And there's been a lot of stuff out. Like, honestly, let's think about the past 2 years, y'all. What has really been good? Like, Loki, something.
Andor?
What's that?
Andor's been amazing.
It was good. Yeah, dialogue heavy, but it was good. But there was nothing really great. I think this was the closest to something where I was like, I'll see this again because it was new, it was fresh. I think it's a good break from the superhero fatigue because since the Flash bombed and all this stuff, I think people need to just step back from Marvel DC for a minute, and this is a good intermission. So do you guys think this is going to open a can of worms now for like Naruto or other stuff to be done in live action, or do you think this is like a one and done?
I cannot see Naruto being translated well in live action at all.
Why?
So a bit of what we've talked about before, where some of the character moments won't translate well with live action as they did with a better medium. But, if we're seeing moments now with like the special effects where we're like, oh, it was a little bit, how are you going to do half of the things they do in episode 1 of Naruto, chapter 1, let alone anything else that's going on? Now, at the same token, I do think One Piece was more ambitious as far as the story length goes, but I don't know. I feel like we were always going to get a continuation of some type of live action anime coming out. I think that this does make it go a little bit more where they're going to go, hey, this did well, so let's try other things. I just don't see a lot of I don't see them taking the right lessons from why One Piece was successful.
Well, so then let me ask you this, Jerv or Bravo, whoever. What makes this work? Now, Jerv, I know you said this wasn't perfect. You think it was it wasn't great. You're pretty much saying it didn't compare to manga, but what made this work compared to other anime or, animated live action? Where did other ones go wrong that this didn't, that made this like a lot of people like it?
Time. It was just the right time. When you a lot of stuff is time based, man. Stuff happened before. You're just getting crap out. Like Marvel's a perfect example. It was the timing for Iron Man to hit, and it just boom, and it took off from there. The time was right. I think the time finally was right for an anime project to just hit and for people to love. And this is a big one, like you said, ambitious in doing this. They nailed the characters too. Like they did a lot of good things with character-wise. They nailed almost every character in this project.
Right.
And on point. The look, the feel, the attitude, the acting, it was great. Like that's huge to nail that many characters and have them on point. That you're ahead of the game right there.
Well, look, now, James, it's funny because in the chat, we're always like, James, you got to watch One Piece. James is the concierge, the ultimate mind brainiac of Marvel DC. And he was like, you know what? I'll watch when I get to it. He enjoyed the first episode. Mind you, he hasn't read the manga or anything. So coming from someone who knows good content, that's a good sign. You know what I mean? Because like you just said, Jerv, the show is entertaining. And like you want to see the journey because trust me, if y'all don't know One Piece, this is just the very beginning. This is how many seasons would it take, Bravo, for you to think for it to catch up to where the manga is right now?
For like 14 minimum. You're talking about something where it's 1,093 chapters, I think.
But no. Let's be realistic. Like they did a decent job of putting all of East Blue into one season. So you think in 6 seasons or 5 seasons you can get to Wano?
No, not Wano.
I don't know. I think they can. They have to change the story. They have to definitely cut out stuff, but they can get there. You just know the story like I do. You're thinking of all the details. You're like, how can this happen?
Well, my bigger thing too is, yeah, just like we're saying, like there's so much where, yeah, like they did some good job by omitting some things and changing some things. I don't know how much they're going to have to admit where they can copy that same success, because I feel like what they did with this show was what we have all been saying about superhero movies and TV shows for centuries, or like since they started coming out, which is, listen, if you want to tell one of the stories in the comics or you want to use one of these characters, you got to stay pretty faithful, but not 100%, but it needs to be near 100%. So like that 80%, stay faithful. You want to do your own thing, make it a different story, change some things, make some things for the better, do a little artistic creativity, because I mean, listen, that's how we got the Batman that we know now. Otherwise, we would have never gotten The Dark Knight Returns when he wrote the comic, because he took creative liberties with the character. But it's just one of those things where I feel that's not usually done well, especially with a lot of these live action remakes of anything. You talk about there's no movie in Ba Sing Se. You talk about Cowboy Bebop. You talk about Death Note. You talk about Dragon Ball Evolution. They either had scenes that were way too faithful to it, or they were nowhere near the same realm.
You know what I can say? You know what I feel this had that those other didn't? Character development. I think this had great. I mean, I'm not just talking anime. I'm just talking shows in general. This has good, very good character development, despite how bad some of the child actors were, this or that. They give you the backstory. So, like, when you as a that's why people love like The Sopranos for years. All these shows like Breaking Bad. The reason these shows went on for so long, were so popular, because you got to know the characters, you know. And you take like the remake of Death Note they did. You really didn't. You could tell someone was just reading the template of the story, like, all right, so we got to cast him there. They didn't have that, you know. And I think that when you do have One Piece, like Oda Sensei, the guy who writes the story, he was literally saying, this show's not going to get done unless you guys do it the way I want it to. And the guy's a brilliant writer, you know. So I think that is a key part of what makes this special. And I think that, honestly, this is going to open the door to new fans in the anime and manga in general. And I think that's good, you know, because I think, you know, sometimes we get caught in our, like, this is what I like, you know. Look, it took my brother. I will be the first to say AJ was the one who was like, Donnie, you got to watch Naruto. Naruto is a great show. And so during the pandemic, I watched Naruto. And I was like, this is good. You know, before that, I watched Dragon Ball, but that doesn't really count. That's kind of like Dragon Ball is like the beginners anime. Do y'all agree with that? So like
the starter pack, right?
The starter pack. It's like, oh, Goku. Everybody knows Goku, but Naruto, you're getting a little further in. One Piece was just like, I was looking in the deep end of the pool, like, I don't know if I want to jump in, and someone pushed me in, and once I'm in, like, I'm like, ha, you know. So yeah, I honestly, y'all, I love the show. Like, I really did truly love it, and I'm so happy that it's doing good, and I really do. I hope that the train keeps going. One more thing I want to bring up too is bye, Bravo. Bravo's just like, fuck you guys. See ya. Another thing I want to bring up too is like the racial inclusion of the show. I don't know if you noticed that. Hey, he's back. Bravo was just over it.
Thank you, Laura.
What I was saying is, I do like how, remember we've talked about for superhero movies, race swapping or gender swapping, and when is it good, when is it not good? this series, Oda wrote this with different nationality races in mind. So when you see like Lucky Roo as a black character, where in the anime he looks white, no one said anything because he's still perfect. The guy looks like Lucky Roo, you know. And like even when they have who was Nami's sister growing up, you know.
Nami's sister, I think that's like a perfect example of like when people try to bait with the race swapping thing. It didn't matter. Like they're an adopted family and everything like that, and like this was something where this wasn't integral to the character. If she looked like a busty white woman or anything like that, could have been anybody. How they could have also still did it as a brother. It would have been a little different. But realistically, that was something that, hey, if they did it, they did it. They just got an actress for it.
And remember, right now, this show is #1 in 84 countries. Mm-hmm. That's the first time ever a Netflix show that has been the same show has been across the board. So this is a world like first of all, these kids were they hired a bunch of nobodies except for McKenyu. The guy plays Zorro. He's done a lot of stuff before, and a couple other actors. But these kids are going to go from literally being nobodies to like their lives are going to change just due to the success of this. But I don't want them to break this formula in other seasons. Now celebrities going to because they're going to be like, hey, give me the role. I like the new act. What do you guys think about giving new people a shot for roles?
Well, that's the thing. We saw what happens when you do that when they did that with Game of Thrones. It was, hey, do we really need to bring Ed Sheeran to make a cameo? Like, it's, to me, like, hey, if there are some big names in it, cool. But is it necessary? No, we've already seen that it's not necessary. We've seen that like countless times. I really do wish that we would get, especially with so many shows being made and so many things going on, I wish we would get more variety. So I'm not seeing 9 movies that have Chris Pratt in them, even though I liked him. But 9 movies, it's a bit much to see Chris Pratt. It's a bit much to see Chris Hemsworth pop up 19 times in different things.
You just don't like Chris's, do you?
No. But like that's the thing. Like I do like that there weren't largely recognizable people. There were some where I was like, oh, like ironically, yesterday I went over to my mom's house and a bunch of my uncles and aunts and cousins were all there, and I was telling them, hey, you guys should really watch One Piece because they were watching some Kevin Hart movie with Mark Wahlberg in it. And I kept laughing about it because I was like, ordinarily anime stories are something you only recommend to anime people. Maybe some little changes here and there, like Death Note, I could recommend to almost anybody. But I thought it was funny because not only was I recommending it to them genuinely, but I went, oh yeah, like the woman who was the car driver in that movie, she plays a villain in the very first episode. She played Alvida. But I liked that there weren't a lot of, oh yeah, this star and that star and this star and this star. So I hope they don't do that in the upcoming, honestly.
Yeah, totally agree. So to wrap it up, Jerv, what if people that have not seen the show are thinking about seeing, what would you tell people about the show? What is your overall opinion?
It's a good show. Like I said, the show's entertaining, good character development. Like you said, it's a big world, but anybody who watches this show who didn't see the anime, I would definitely suggest watching the anime, without a doubt.
So where are you at in the anime?
I'm like 400 episodes in.
Did you get to in East Lobby yet, where they're trying to rescue Nico Robin?
Nope. Oh yeah. Past that.
Okay.
That. Yeah.
He looked at the screen and was like, wait, that's Nikki.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, Jerv, what would you give it?
I give it a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, give it a 7.
Bravo, what about you?
Ironically, I say 7 as well. I recommend it to people to go watch it. I agree with Jerv. If you really did enjoy it, go read the manga or watch the anime because it dives in deeper with the characters.
Cool. You know what? I'll be a little more generous. Should I say 8? No, what? I'll say a 7.5. I know what. Just no. Know what? No, I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to say 7 because as much as I liked it, there were things I think that they can improve on in seasons to come. You know, I think that this will be a good marker for them to see what worked. I love the flashback with the kids, but I feel like they put more time and energy into the adult story than the kids. Performance-wise, you know what I mean? Like you can tell they put a lot of care into casting, but I think they'll perfect that. And I think as they get that more under control, because think about it, like next season, Bravo, we should have Smoker, we should have Crocodile. It's Nico Robin. Like so, the story's about to get good. And you know, Baroque works. All the numbers, Miss Christmas and all them too. So
Chopper,
yeah, man,
can we get Chopper?
I don't know if they're going to do them, honestly. I think they might actually do a time skip past them and then not mention it.
No. There's no way. Everyone will be pissed. Like
I agree. Everybody will be pissed.
I think Chopper is easier to do than Brooke. How are you going to make a walking, talking skeleton not look like, like with the shattering bones and teeth? Like,
man, that's easy. The skeleton is easy. We've seen enough skeletons in movies and TV shows a million times. That's easy.
No, not like
Chopper
not
will
cheesy.
be way harder.
I'm talking not cheesy, not like a skeleton like,
Chopper will be way harder, man. Because Chopper transforms from 2 legs to 4 legs, and like that, it's so much stuff going on with Chopper, man. That's going to be a lot harder.
Well, the good news is the show is so popular now, they might get a bigger budget. So if they get a bigger budget, they might actually be able, like you said, Sweet Tooth is a good example. Bravo, if they go that route, fine. Like people are gonna have to in their brain be like, all right, this is not the little reindeer cute. Are they gonna hire a midget with like a kid's voice? Like what are they gonna do? Like we just need to wait and see.
It's Peter Dinklage is Chopper.
What's that?
Peter Dinklage is Chopper.
He's like, there's really a problem with the ship. They're going. All right, guys. So overall, I think we all like One Piece. If you guys haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out, including you, Jorge. I know Jorge gets a pass because he's in Colombia right now,
man.
And he's going to leave.
Jorge got his shit hooked up over in Colombia. Jorge watching everything over there.
No, man, it's no limited internet here.
Jorge, stop it.
I feel powerless.
At least you got your Etch-a-Sketch out there. We're talking like Colombia's like this, like Aborigine tribe where they just go out and like write with bamboo shoots. Oh man. But all right, guys, Party Nerds, we're out. Next week we're gonna talk some Ahsoka. So Party Nerds, peace.
Woo!
Later.